Good afternoon, everyone. Aspirations turn into reality when it meets with the strategy. On the path to aspirations, challenges and opportunities are the order of the day. Here we have gathered to listen to the stories of two exemplary guests on the topic Aspirations and Strategies, CHRO to CEO. To moderate this session, I would like to invite Mr. Sujoy Banerjee. He is an HR professional with 31 years of experience across industry sectors. Currently, he is the Group Chief HR Officer and Group Head for Marketing at Gainwell Commercials. He has been showered with dozens of awards and accolades in his professional journey. Being awarded the CHRO of the Year award by Global HR Excellence Awards last year is just another feather. He also serves as the regional president of the East region of the National HRD Network. Over to you, Sujoy sir.
Good afternoon, friends, and welcome to this very interesting session of the Aspirations and Strategies CHRO to CEO. In fact, I'm equally intrigued and excited to listen to two of my colleagues on this panel, how they have transcended and traversed this journey of being a HR professional to become a business leader in their respective organizations. I'm really honored and privileged to have with me Dr. Alka Mittal, who's Chairman and Managing Director and Director Human Resources at ONGC. I'll give a very brief introduction of Dr. Mittal because it runs into pages. So I don't want to stand between the audience and the experiences of Alkaji and that also of Amit because both these introductions are pretty terse and precise. Uh, Dr. Mittal is Chairman and Managing Director and Director HR of the Oil and Natural Gas Corporation, India's national oil company. With taking over the additional charge of CMD of ONGC in January 2022, Dr. Mittal has become the first woman to head one of the most India's valuable oil and gas public sector enterprises. Dr. Mittal is also the chairman of the ONGC group of companies having dominance in the E&P sector and significant presence in refining, petrochemicals, power and renewables. Earlier, she had become the first ever woman functional director of ONGC in its history when she assumed the charge of Director HR in 2018. I will not get into reading her qualification, everything. Dr. Mittal is Dr. Mittal by herself. So she has created an identity and brand of herself when she took over the charge of ONGC. And I'm privileged that we serve together on the board of the National HRD Network. It's my privilege, Dr. Mittal, to welcome you to the program.
Thank you.
Now, I have the privilege and honor to introduce Mr. Amit Malik, Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director. Amit has already told me keep my introduction to be the shortest one. Uh, Amit is the Chief Executive Officer and Managing Director of Aviva India. He brings along 22 years of experience in business strategy, solutioning, sales, customer experience management, business restructuring, succession planning, and operations for large businesses across banking, financial services, captive, insurance, and FMCG industry. I'm also not going to read Amit's professional qualification, but I'll just say that he had some very interesting assignments across Royal Bank of Scotland, Bank of America, American Express, and GSK Healthcare, and has undertaken regional assignments in Malaysia and Sri Lanka. Welcome, Amit, to this conversation. Uh,
Thank you for having me, Sujoy, and Namaste, Alkaji. So good to see you.
Namaskar. Namaste.
Wonderful. We've just 4 minutes and the introductions are over. So, including mine. So, what we have decided is basically we will have this conversation for about 40 odd minutes between the three of us, and then we'll leave it open to question and answers from the audience. I'm sure you can post your questions and we'll take them. And but we'll keep to the time. Because Amit has a hard stop at 1:30. So I'll start with Alkaji if you allow me, Alkaji.
Yes.
Let me ask you, how did it all begin for you in your career?
Okay. First of all, greetings to all. Amit, who's here with us, and it's a pleasure to share the dais with you, I would say, and Sujoyji. We know each other, and now working together on this panel is a pleasure for me totally. And my special regards to all the NHRD and team members who are here, who have facilitated the takeoff of this 24th annual conference, and all the participants who are here with us. I'm told the number is growing with each session. So my compliments to the team which has been there, and to all the participants. I'm really very pleased to be a part of this, and I see a wonderful set of speakers have already shared their views, and I was just going through a few, and I was feeling so enriched just by going through that. And I feel that there cannot be a better run up to the 25th Silver Jubilee national conference than having a 24th one, which will be a benchmark in itself. So we are looking forward to the next year as well, and seeing that the benchmark, the bar is set by this particular 24th annual conference. So when we talk about the theme of metamorphosis, I think it is our very nature to evolve, to grow, to gain expertise in our respective domains. And when we are experiencing all this, we see ourselves in a totally different at a totally different level. And this is the beauty of it. This is the way businesses have grown, and this is the way individuals also, they take on a journey, their professional journey. And I would just like to share that when I started off at the age of, I think, 22 years, 4 5 months, I joined ONGC. It was more like a few choices that I made, in my journey, which have led me to where I am. So I chose to be in a company which is having difficult areas where we are present, and which is having, seen as a mainly, which was at that time in 1985 seen as a mainly men's bastion, where there were not too many women there. But let me share with you with pride that when I was selected, that was the time when my company chose 14 out of 70 personnel, 70 graduate trainees. There were 14 who were women, and they were from different areas in the country. They were all professionals, HR professionals, finance professionals, and those who were joining the legal department. So this is the way we started our journey. I was at Baroda when I started off, and I was trying to put uh, put my best foot forward wherever I was getting involved in whatever activities, because besides being in the area of HR in a company which is actually into all technical experts, which is into technical expertise and in a totally technical domain, I was also seeing the way we can make a difference. So that was a time when we started off, and during that period, while I was learning to contribute towards the ONGC's business, I was also working on myself as a professional. Was very keen on, though I normally prefer not to be talking about my qualifications or my like I would say academic qualifications. I take pride in one qualification which I acquired at the turn of the century. I started preparing for it, for my PhD in the area of corporate governance while working at Delhi. So I had two little daughters by then, and both were in their formative years. So their schooling and all those things were getting balanced with my office, and in between, I added another dimension. I decided I would like to do my PhD, and that too in a fairly new area of corporate governance. And let me share with you, though it was tough, it was a wonderful experience, and I really felt so enriched at the end of, means at the end of each day, when I was studying, when I was going through the literature that was available. I became a little more tech savvy. I started jotting everything down on my desktop, which was not a normal for me at that time. And slowly I started realizing that my horizon has widened. And that is what I never realized, that I am what I am heading towards. But I think that set the roadmap for me very clear. because once I was there, I was not only looking at my job as a assignment which I was taking on, I was looking at where it is fitting it into the entire organization. My role as in charge HRER at Mumbai or in Jorat, where I chose to move on transfer in Assam, that became more meaningful for me because I understood that I'm a part of a organism of an organization which is into exploration and production of oil, and that is for the nation's energy stability. And the moment we started looking at the larger picture, there was lots of things which I felt, okay, this is okay from transparency point of view, but I have to be accountable for something. And that way, I started somehow gaining more and more confidence in my working, and various assignments that I took on actually took me from one level to another, and I did not realize that I was just doing my normal day's work. Only thing I would like to add here would be that while I was handling one assignment, it happened to me thrice, and this present assignment is the fourth time when I was asked to take on another additional assignment in addition. And I would say that, okay, am I able to, I am okay with it, then I would tell myself, no, I can take it on, let me try it. And every time it worked, and it added so much to my level of confidence and my conviction that I can actually make a difference. So when I was traveling back from Jorat, I still remember I was in a Rajdhani, and I was in Rajdhani with my younger daughter who was 9 years old, and I was just sitting and looking at the greenery around when we were taking the train journey, and I just told myself, I think I can handle anything in this world now after this 2 years experience in Assam. Because the day one there, I was walking on a railway track, looking at some kind of encroachment which had happened adjacent to our office complex. So these are the kind of challenges you take on when you are working in the fields, and these are the kind of things which build you into the professional you are. And that is what I would like to share here. And there's a lot that I carry with me from my experience in ONGC, which I feel has got me here. But all credit, all compliments for this go to my seniors who were always there to have to back me up, to tell me that, okay, you can do it, take on this additional assignment, you'll do it. And they were also providing all support all the time. So that is it.
Super, Valkaji. Before I turn to Amit, few nuggets which I got were actually words of wisdom from Valkaji. Exploration, pushing the boundaries, taking up challenges. And the daughters are growing up to take up a PhD and in a subject like corporate governance. Hats off to you, Alkaji. And I think ONGC started breaking the glass ceiling way back when they recruited 14 young women professionals like you. And I'm sure they have not regretted their decision. You have not made them regret their decision. They must be proud of their recruitment when they recruited all of you all.
Thank
I
you.
don't want to stand in the way of Amit and the rest of the audience. Amit, how's been your experience, this entire journey to where you're sitting in the corner room today?
So first of all, thank you to everybody at NHRD, Nathan, who's the president, and the team for inviting me here. And it's an honor to be with you, Alkaji. When I was told that you are the speaker, I didn't even blink an eyelid and said, yes, it's an honor. I will share with you. So that's how it was. And your story is truly inspiring. So I was hoping that Sujoy will not ask me that question because it's not as inspiring as yours, but I'll still give it a shot. So, Sujay, for me, it all began in the streets of northern India. My first job in GSK, which was sales HR, I started to realize the importance of saying, irrespective of what job you do in the organization, you need to understand how the organization makes money. Sorry.
Yeah.
So, so it started on the streets of North India, right from Azamgarh to Agra to Varanasi. I would do the sales beat. I would sit behind the wholesaler salesman Luna, and I would do the beat, and I would go through the shops and look at the point of sale and how many bottles of Horlicks. And I realized the difference of selling when we used to sell Horlicks. In North, we would grovel for the shopkeeper to keep one bottle of Horlicks, and in South and East, we would turn around to the same wholesaler and say, if you don't buy a carton, we won't give you a bottle. And I realized the power of the market dynamics in that job that I had, because I'd worked across India. And then every job that I took, whether it was in banks and insurance, I've gone and sold credit card in Chandni Chowk, I've sold insurance in Hyderabad, I've sold the products. I would go and sell with the salesperson, telling them, don't tell anybody that I'm an HR person or I'm a senior official in the company. Just say that I'm a colleague who's come to learn sales from you, and that would be my thing. Typically, I would give away at the end when I would start to do the sales pitch. But so I've done all of that, and that's how it began. But the penny actually dropped was when I was in Aviva and I was the head of HR, and we were doing a strategy for the company. And my CEO at that time threw the challenge and said, as a top leadership team, we should all own the strategy. So he said, when we present to the board, I don't want the people in their areas of expertise to present. I want someone else to present. So taking up the challenge, I put my hand up and said, I'll do the sales and distribution strategy piece. And everyone around the room was kind of surprised. I could see the look on my colleague's face saying, this man's looned out. But any which ways. And when I did it to the board, I did the sales and distribution piece, and our regional president at that time, who was part of the board, came back to me and said, I think we have a successor for the sales and distribution person. So he said, as an HR head, I think you have one successor already lined up. I think that's when the journey started in full-fledged from HR to looking at it. I then went on, and while I've not done PhD as Alkaji, but I then went on and did general management courses and upgraded my skills. So I went to a course in the Oxford University at said business school, and I did a general management course over a period of a year to understand what it takes from a value creation perspective. And then in 2018, I got moved into doing the operations role full-fledged. So I was doing the CHRO and the COO role, which was more customer-facing. And from that journey onwards to understand customer. And I'll tell you an anecdote. When I first started to take the ops role, there was this whole thing saying, what will this HR guy do in ops? And I was in a review meeting, and I was doing a review. So I asked a very simple question saying, is the model success plus or cost plus? And I was told, we'll answer this to you after the meeting. And I was very surprised. So I asked the presenter, I said, why did you want to do it after the meeting? He said, I didn't know whether you know the difference between a success plus and a cost plus model. So I was saving you embarrassment. That was the feedback that I got. And that's the mindset that one had to overcome, in the journey. And I think that was a challenge from an overcome. But from a COO to a CEO was relatively easy, because I think people had seen me do the role and the customer facing one. But yes, it's been interesting. I think in hindsight, when you look back, the dots connect with each other. For someone who was young, 25, 26-year-old, wanting to go behind the wholesaler salesman in the Luna and clean up bottles of Horlicks, or understand. I think the dots just connect in the hindsight. And I think that's what has been in my journey. I think I've got mentors who have always been there and who have helped me make the switch or shown confidence in me to say, even if you fail, doesn't matter, just go ahead and do it. I think that's been the journey that has been there.
Wonderful, Amit. So, and the place where you started your career is now the hotspot of Indian discussion nowadays, the UP elections. So,
Yes.
so, but what I noticed between Amit and Alkaji, the commonality in terms of their movement from being where they had started their career to the corner rooms of the respective organizations is a is an urge to evolve and learn, push the boundaries, take up new challenges. So these are the common threads which I find Amit and Alkaji both had during the career is an urge to learn, urge to evolve, urge to grow, push the boundaries, challenge themselves, and say no to nothing, whatever challenges came their way. I think these were the common learnings from both the conversations I had now. I'll now start with Amit. Uh, then I'll go to Alkaji on that. Life is never a bed of roses, Amit. And you must have been thrown a lot of challenges in the course of your movement of the last 22 years. So, what are those ups and downs you navigated and managed to reach where you are? One of those was the cost plus question and the success plus question, which your team member saved you the embarrassment of whether knowing or not knowing. But then, what were the challenges that came your way and how did you navigate them? Because the people on the other side of the digital platform today would like to learn from your experiences. Over to you, Amit.
So I was so sales focused that at one time in some of the organizations, my HR colleagues would think that rather than putting the HR view forward, I was putting the sales view forward. And I was told, you are so passionate about the sales and the customers that you forget that you are an HR person and you have to wear an HR hat. And I was always challenged on this, which I always took it positively because I think that was the part of the job, and that's what you bring as a good HR person. But that was a challenge when I would go to colleagues in the other centers of excellence, be it learning rewards, and try and push the business case far more than a normal HR person would. And I think that was one of the challenge. I think even from when you try to move in while we all say we are open to acceptance, but I think acceptance takes a lot from the recipient's mindset to accept you. It's you may have a certain skill set. An individual may believe that I can do it or he or she can do it, but to have the other person to have that mindset to accept you takes a lot of time, and you really have to, when you make a change, you really have to work on that piece, whether it's from a leadership perspective, whether it's from a shareholder outlook perspective, or whether it's redefining the strategy. So it is I think those that is the challenge that has. And how does an individual adjust and accept that piece and put it into action is very critical for that individual success. That is both an opportunity and a challenge, I think, which is there. And just because you think you can do it and you move into a certain role or the organization has done it, doesn't mean that everyone else is going to accept it. I think that's something that you want to work on. I think from the other perspective that the challenge and opportunities comes in is to be able to have new learnings every day in a zone that is outside of your comfort zone. How do you individually accept yourself being in a zone which is outside of your comfort zone? That individual acceptance that for the next 6 to 9 months I'm going to be in a zone that is not my comfort. I will have to learn and inculcate a learner's mindset. So I had to do that after 18 years of my career, inculcate a learner's mindset in my own self, to say I am going to be learning. So when I took over the CEO role, I said I'm going to be a learner for the next 3 to 4 months. I will have the courage to ask the most dumb questions that I can ask without the fear of being judged. I think that is for me both a challenge and an opportunity. Challenge because you have a public persona and people see you in a way in an organization, and the opportunity is that is for your opportunity to roll up your sleeves and deep dive. I think that for is the fear of the unknown. How do you deal with the fear of the unknown? I think that's something that I have had. So like I'll tell you, I have made sure that I get into that mindset and ask all the questions in the room, irrespective of how people judge me. So that, because if I understand the process, if I understand the customer focus, if I understand the service delivery, then only I will be able to impact or have a judgment on it. Or when I take a decision, I would be able to do what I think is right from that standpoint. So I think that's the answer to the question. I hope I've answered.
Wonderful, Amit, because individual acceptance and always a keenness to learn and accept the fact that I'm in an unknown zone is very important, and be willing to absorb the information and the knowledge. Alkaji, would you like to add anything from your experience on this?
Yes, for sure. But first of all, I would like to clarify to the audience that we have not had a trial run of this. And still, what is flowing now is going to be almost in continuation of what Amit ji has said. So let me clarify this, because we have not sat together and planned it out like this.
Alkaji, I think that the commonality happens when people make it to the board to the corner room by going through his entire journey. So commonality will be there, Alkaji. Please.
Really, I'm amazed at this. So my top concerns when I understood that okay, I'm going to be taking over as a CMD of this Maharatna company. First was that I was the first HR leader to take on this assignment, this role. And second concern, and I saw that the world is looking at me as I am the first woman to take it on too. So I had to actually I am still in the classroom, I would say. I'm still preparing. But the first month itself, because we had our Q3 results coming up, was the month when I was chairing the board meetings of all our subsidiaries and JVs. And for every meeting, like normally meetings are kept in the afternoon around 3 o'clock. But the day before that, I would start preparing for it, and I would devote at least 2 to 3 hours discussing with my team, which is a multidisciplinary team. And then I would devote another 2 to 3 hours just reading the material, that the agenda which is there which was given to me. And while moving, while sleeping, while waking up, I was looking at the issues that the companies are facing, and I was making up my mind about how the situation is going to evolve during the course of the board meeting. So I was living the board, each board meeting myself when I was preparing for it. And that is the way I could set the context for future deliberations. One thing I was, it's not in my nature to be anything other than polite. I used to be polite, but I also became fairly firm. If there was an agenda which had been put up as a short term agenda without a explainable reason, I would just say that let us take it on in the next board meeting. And my study and my practice of corporate governance really helped me in this. I made it very clear. I thought that let me take on, while I'm learning myself the business, let me take on this challenge of teaching the board members how we should conduct ourselves in the boardroom, how we should conduct the board meetings. And that I really took on in right earnest. So that was one thing. And the challenge for me from organization's point of view was that while India is growing at a very fast pace, and India with its GDP at dollar 250 trillion, trillion is on a very rapid trajectory, and we are moving towards dollar 500 trillion economy. The growth need, the energy need of the country is tremendous, and we are the third largest energy consumer in the world. And for that, the major contribution has to come from ONGC fields, whether it is in form of crude oil or in form of gas. And that is where our main concerns are, because we started off in 74 when we started off at Mumbai High, but new discoveries are not those many, and they are not of that size or that magnitude. So how to make sure that we are able to take on the challenge of energizing, keeping India energized in the years to come, till renewables are actually in place for meeting this requirement, is something we are struggling with, we are dealing with, and we are talking about all the time. So now, while all the board meetings are over, I am thinking about it, I am dreaming about it, and I am talking about it all the while. I will not talk more on this. We can move to the next part of our discussion.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Alkati. And what has resonated amongst people, I can see it in the feed, is being polite but still being firm. That, I think, that has resonated really well with most of our audiences, and I think that's a learning all leaders have to take on, because we should not be rude, but we cannot compromise on what we want. So it has to be a combination of being polite at the same time, being firm on what we want and firm on what we desire from people. So life is not all about work. Your career in ONGC has taken you, ma'am, across various locations, Alkaji. And but you learn a lot in life from experiences outside the workplace. It gives a holistic shape to your life. So, would you like to share with us that how your out of work experiences have shaped you to become what you are today, the confident woman managing director, first woman managing director of ONGC?
Right. So, Jyoti, what I have observed during our, stint at different locations, when I was in Gujarat, I observed that the women over there are very free in their thinking and in voicing their aspirations. They may not be highly qualified. In those days it was like that, but they were very clear about what they would like to work towards, and they work towards it. So while we were doing, while I was working over there, I also saw that they were evolving to the next level. They were building on their strengths, and that is the time when I also realized that I have my own set of aspirations. Why should I not talk about it? Why should I not voice it? So that is something which I learned from even my. I still remember the girl who used to come to help us out at home. I saw that she was talking about how she would like to have her own business. And she was just a 14, 15-year-old. So I realized that you have to start dreaming early, at a very early stage in life, and then only you can try and touch the dreams and make them happen. So that is one thing. After that, when I was I was in Assam. I saw the people over there, despite the kind of constraints which the geographical conditions, which the climatic conditions provide to them, they are such happy go lucky people. They work, but they also enjoy. You see, if you are there at any point of time during the month of April, you will see the Bihu celebrations on. They are all on the roads, and they are very clear that this is the time to celebrate during the harvest. So that is something which I again gained. And what I also observed was that in ONGC we have representation from all the regions in the country. So we become like a mini India, and the kind of like talent which we have, whether it is different kind of art forms which are promoted by us or within the company, that gives us so much understanding of what this country is all about, and that gets us more attached to this nation. In fact, that's why I'll just stop after this. That's why when the Prime Minister spoke about Azadi Ka Amrit Utsav, we started talking about how ONGC as an organization, as energy provider, will provide more energy resources to the country. So we were sitting in the boardroom, all functional directors, our chairman was there, and Secretary Petroleum Natural Gas was there. We were having an online discussion. So I mentioned to him that besides this, what I would like to contribute towards would be to promote art forms around our operational areas. So we have adopted 15 out of 75 art forms which our oil sector is going to promote in the times to come. This is not for any other reason but to ensure that we remain as integrated as an integrated part of this nation, and we keep taking pride in our roots, where we have come from, and the rural India, because our presence is mainly in the rural areas. So when we are able to take them on board, not only does it help us as human beings, it helps us as an organization also. The kind of goodwill and the kind of satisfaction we create in the minds of those who are present in that area is something which gives us tremendous, pleasure and happiness.
Thank you so much, Alkaji. Amit, beyond selling bottles of Horlicks and credit cards and insurance products, how has other aspects of life helped you to evolve as a HR leader and then as a business leader? How has it supported your growth?
Surya, I don't know how many people know, but I changed 7 schools in 12 years. I'm a
Wow.
Fauji kid. And I used to joke saying, even before, forget making friends, even before my teachers get to know me, my father gets me to change a school. So I've been in Assam. Alkaji talked about Assam and Jorhat. I've had my early education in Silchar and a place called Karimganj,
Very
where
good.
we used to stay in a thatched roof house in 1980s, and which did not have a door. And if the storm came in the night, the roof would blow off, and then you would have those batmen in the army who would then, work the whole day so that the family could sleep under the roof. And I was a small kid. So I think those experiences have made me very adaptable, right? And in those days when you didn't have, social media, or, in one school, the emphasis on relationships and the importance of making friends, being social. I think that's how the extrovert in me I attribute to those growing up days in the defense forces. right? I think every part of your life shapes you up. In my MBA college, I got the first experience of leadership. I was the president of the students council. I think it took me, I think from there it got me the understanding of what it is to work with peers, what it is to be lead by example. When how do you bring that in how do you lead in constraints where you don't have the authority and you can only work by influence in an education institution, right? You have no authority. Director has all the authority, but you have to influence. So I think those were the lessons that I shaped up. I was in Srinagar, and my father was posted, and he got ambushed, and he suffered bullet injuries. And as someone who was in class 10th at that time, and the elder son, the only son, I have a sister. So how do you cope up with that news where you are uncertain as to what will happen and how the future takes you? So all of a sudden you overgrow. So I think those are the experiences in life which have made me the individual that I am. Saying, okay, we will face whatever comes my way. I will face it. I think that's the attitude. The other thing that I always do is I read a lot, Sujoy. They help me open my mind. So on some things that I don't know, I read a lot. I recently read a book on, Bitcoin is the flavor. So I wanted to understand the evolution of money. So I read a book which took me 200 years back as to how money gets evolved. Today, I learn from young people. So I always make sure that I have young under 30 reverse mentors, people who are young, who give me a young individual's worldview and perspective, and I learn a lot from there. So I always have a young mentor who I treat with same reverence and respect as I treat my other mentors and coaches. So that's always there. And my wife tells me, when my young mentors become 30, 35, then I go and find myself another young mentor who's 27, 28 to guide me through. And I've been doing this for last 5, 6 years. But it's those are the couple of things that I do almost, which have shaped me to be the person.
Thanks a ton, Amit. And I think your experience of being taken from one part of the country to another part of the country by your parents has shaped your thinking process and being more open, more cosmopolitan, more inclusive. I think that has shaped your thinking process and helped you to look at things in a much more bigger way. And the challenges that you've had and your personal challenges when you were very young, when you were in Srinagar, has actually given a lot of mental toughness to navigate a personal tough situation. I think hats off to you, Amit. And I think one of the biggest takeaways for the younger generation, anyone sitting on the other side of the digital platform, is to read, to constantly read, learn, and learn new things. Just to share with you a personal experience, one of the biggest mentors does reverse mentoring for me is my son, who's now 26 years old, 27 years old. So I learn every day. Whenever have a conversation with him, I pick up a lot of things from him, and especially to become much more technology friendly. So I think reverse mentoring at times happens at home from your kids also. So that's a huge learning process that we get. Before I get into the questions, because I'm being flooded with questions, Alkaji and Amit, uh, and there are many questions. I don't know how I'll be able to handle all of them. But then before we get into the Q&A, Alkaji, about 60 seconds or 2 minutes from you, what's the future ahead for you?
Presently, I am so involved in the business of this organization that I hardly have time to think about the future. But what I am looking at, I'm like I mentioned that way back in 2000, I was studying. I still continue to study. I love reading again, as Amitji has mentioned. And there's this course which I'm pursuing, which is meant for non-executive directors, and I have enrolled for it. In fact, entire internal board of ONGC has enrolled for it, because when we took on this assignment of being on the board of ONGC, we wanted to be better prepared. And this is a wonderful learning platform that is available to us. It's a FT NED program which is there. So while I'm doing that, in the long run, I have that, a passion to make a difference on ground in lives of people who have missed out on this growth story of our country. So that is why I will be balancing my professional association with different activities, with lots of socio-economic development activities. I already have identified two areas where I would like to work in. One would be for the senior citizens of this. I will myself be becoming a senior citizen, but more senior citizens, I would say, how we can provide them relief in these times of isolation, because their children normally are away from them and they feel at times left out from the mainstream. And simultaneously, on women empowerment, I see so much potential in the girls who are working in different areas, who are studying, who are struggling to study, and there's so much that can be done. And I see it makes all economic sense as well, because half of the population not contributing towards the nation's growth story means we are actually missing out on a major resource. That's why, while in ONGC we have been able to get women on board and girls are actually in the mainstream, they are rising up the ladder. But I feel we need to work on that. So that will be these will be the two areas where I'll be working on. And I can keep talking about it. So I'll stop here.
Thank you, Alka. In fact, I think that's true nation building. Your contribution will be true nation building in the larger interest of country. Amit, how do you want to how you planned your future? Not beyond selling insurance products and driving Aviva to more success and growth.
Yes.
I really wish I had got like powers to plan the future, especially in the VUCA world, Sujay. So I am a firm believer when I tell God I have a plan, God laughs at me. That's been stuff. So I really wish that. But I think on a serious note, I have thought about it. So every time in my career when I've achieved a goal, I've then reset a goal for myself. So I have something which is Amit 2.0, which I think will be very, very different from Amit 1.0 that I'm continuing in this journey. So I think for that you'll have to watch this space. But Amit 3.0 has a goal, just like Alkaji has. I have something which is very personal and dear to me. Is at some point I would want to work to contribute towards increasing the financial literacy of a common Indian. I feel we really need to do a lot more of teaching our kids, our young Indians, about the importance of financial literacy so that they can take informed decisions, especially with the average age of an Indian increasing and the focus on income after 50 or 55. I think that's something that I'm very passionate about. And also, that will help working in what I call the true Bharat, which is the India which is outside of the tier 1, tier 2 towns, where we are able to impart this knowledge. So that's something that I will surely do. I don't know how, today there's not much I can contribute in that area, but at some point I will pick that up, and that's for me. If I ever do that, I think that would be a good sunset to my career.
Sun is still in the mid sky, so don't talk about sun setting now.
Uh,
So thanks, Amit. I've been loaded with questions. I'll take a few of them because we've got 17 odd minutes before we have to wrap up the session. Alkaji, this question is typically directed towards you. Being a woman who was ambitious, who wanted to take up challenges, how did you get the moral support of your family ecosystem?
right. So I besides having a doting mother-in-law and a husband who always understood my aspirations, and before that my father, who always was very focused that if she wants to have a career of herself, let us not talk about marriage, let her have a free choice of what she would like to do. But what I am blessed with is, as I have already shared, I have two girls who are there. So when I was to take this decision about whether to or not to go for the board level position in ONGC as director HR, I was in two minds, because my younger daughter was preparing for her medical entrance exams, and I felt that I should not let her down by not being present for her when she needs me the most. So I just casually mentioned to her that I feel now is the time when your careers, your aspirations should take priority. She said, but I don't see any clash in these. She says, I don't want you at home all the time. I just want your presence somewhere there so that I can pick up the phone and talk to you. And let me tell you that that is the day which I took that decision that, okay, let me just put in my application there for the position. And to the extent that whenever my daughter calls, even if she calls up now, I'll just pick up the phone, I'll send a text to her and disconnect. She's 26, going to be 26 this year. But this is the kind of comfort we give to each other just by being connected all the while. This is what family is all about, and my circle of friends, my colleagues at workplace, wonderful people. I have a person because I was just taking on a totally new assignment as CMD. The person who's right next to me in this office is a person who has worked in different platforms. Wonderful person. He will come and tell me, ma'am, I just don't agree with this. And I am all ears. I understand his point of view, and then we take a call. So this is it. It has to be a large family, both at home, which is backing you up, and a huge family in office, which is again backing us up. And that is the way things happen, I would say.
Amit, before I come to you, another back-to-back.
Sujay, I know the question was Sujay, the question was not for me, but I want to be a little provocative
Please,
if you allow me, and I want
please
to
go
answer
ahead.
a
Please
similar
go ahead.
question.
Please.
I think people, while I admire Alkaji and her story, I think people forget that even as men, we have to contract when we take such calls with the family.
Yeah.
So I want to tell an instance, when I was given that call to say that the board wants you to take up this role. Let me tell you, I first thanked, and I in my mind, one would want to. I said, can you give me 24 hours to speak to my family and come back to you, which could be surprising because men usually don't do that.
Yeah.
But I wanted to because I clearly understood that the journey that I was embarking, I would need their support and their understanding. So first I spoke to my wife, and when I told, I have two boys, Alkaji has two girls, I have two boys, and they're much younger. They are 14 and 17. When I sat them down and said, this is what I'm going to do, one of them asked me saying, well, it's great for you, but does that mean that you will spend less time with us? And that was a genuine question. How are you going to now allocate your time, because you any which ways work so much, spend so much of time working? So I did contract that as a family, we always endeavor to have dinner together at 7:30. And I said, I will make sure that 5 days out of 7 in a week, we will still continue to have dinner together. And that was a contract that, I had to make. So even today, I keep that contract, and, I try and keep my weekends for the kids. Sorry, I just thought I'd share this because, I don't want the male colleagues to feel that they just get away easy.
No. We also have got the same commitments. Alkaji, this question is again for you. I'll come back to you, Amit. Is when a woman colleague of ours gets firm, they're often construed or perceived as aggressive by the men folk in the organization. So how do you handle this basically? Because there's a perception issue. It is a mindset issue.
So I'll just say that we have to look at the difference between being assertive and being aggressive. So at times you may have to assert your point of view, but you need not be aggressive about it. When I have seen with myself what happens when I need to make a point. My the pitch or the volume will be a little less. I will be talking softer, but the firmness in my voice will convey that here is something on which there cannot be any compromise. So that is it. One has to keep asserting. I have seen that as a lady, as a woman officer who was growing, at times you would not be expected to talk.
Yeah.
So you would just have to raise your hand once, twice, and maybe the third time, someone will give you an opportunity to talk. But when you raise your hand, you should be very clear about what you want to convey. And then you have to convey it with all conviction. Then you will get heard. And once you do it a few times, you'll get into that habit of going ahead with it, and others around you will also understand that when she's wanting to talk, let us listen to her and give her that space to present her point of view. So that is it. Even in the boardroom, when I first joined, this was happening. I would listen to everyone and then I would say that I have a point here. Only once when I said that I don't have a point of view on a particular decision was when we were deciding on awards for a particular year. And I realized that my other colleagues, who were all male colleagues, They were making choices, and when there were three persons amongst whom we had to choose, if there was one lady officer, they would choose the lady officer for the award. So I would just remain quiet, and then I would say that, okay, fine, if you all have made this decision, I will back you up. So that way, without my highlighting, I saw that the climate in the boardroom is evolving, is changing. Girls are getting recognized for good work they were doing. And when the board members themselves were keen on talking about it, I thought that I can keep quiet at that time. That is it.
Amit, let me take this question on to you. What has been your top of the world moment in your personal and professional life? Hope it's not too intrusive or interfering.
No, no, no. I think in professional life, I'd be lying if I say that I wasn't very happy when I was asked to be the CEO of Aviva. So I think I'll be lying if I said that. And I think that is it, because I started my career having no ambition to become a CEO, but events have turned out, and God's been very kind, and wishes of family and friends. So I think that was the highlight, yes. And also, especially doing it from doing ops and a gradual trajectory. I think on the personal side, there are so many that one celebrates with the family, and the kids and their achievements. And I've always felt that it's always been, the kids and my wife and my family, and it's been there and with them. So whatever is their achievement, my kids' achievement, my family, and I want to take this opportunity to thank my wife, who I think is the secret sauce of my success. So, and that's where I want to share. So I think that's what it is.
Alkaji, what about you? Your top of the world moment.
I think the top of the world moment for me was when I was selected as the director HR. I had decided that it will be someone else. I just had to do my best in the interview. Came back. My daughter asked me, "How did you perform? How did you perform in your interview?" So I told her it was not top class. It was not the best. So she had ordered a pizza for me to treat me to out of this feeling of not having done good. And
Okay.
then I got a call from the PSP that your name is getting uploaded. So, what I felt so thrilled about was that I saw my daughter. She was like bouncing like a like a little. We used to read about a piggy who would bounce. She was
Ah,
bouncing like that, and this is a girl who was at that time 28 years old, and she was so thrilled. And when I saw the joy on the faces of my mom-in-law, my husband, and my daughter, I felt that I think I cannot ask for anything more. And when I reached office, same was true. All the girls in the office were like, they were saying they are getting messages from all over the country, congratulatory messages that, see, one of you all has come up there. So all of you can follow in times to come. So that is something which made me really thrilled about it. This, of course, is a challenging assignment which I have taken on. I took it on with mixed feelings. I was a little in doubt, self doubt of myself. But then with each passing day, I think I have got over it, and I have seen that an HR person can make all the difference to the organization. Being at the top, you are able to take things in the right direction, and without, in fact, keeping anyone behind, leaving anyone behind, taking all along. And that is the beauty of it when you are at the top. Thank you.
thank you so much, Alkaji. In fact, taking a cue from what you just now stated, I've got a very interesting question for both of you all before we got another 6 minutes to go. Uh, is what is one thing you want to implement in HR not so far done in your respective organizations? Over to you, Amit, because you've headed HR, now you're in the corner room. So what do you want your new HR head or the HR head to drive, which you couldn't do or you haven't done till now?
Well, I think that's the wrong question to ask, Sujan. I cannot put my HR head in the spot, right? Because I will tell you, the day I took over this job, I told both my ops leader and my HR leader, saying that if I ever step into your shoes and take a call, you should be the first person to walk into my office and say, that is not your remit as a CEO. I am the function head, and that's a call that I'm going to take. I said the vision for your function has to be done by you. That is why we have you. And I think that's I've tried to be very, very true to that feeling, to say I have my job to do and they have their jobs to do. I think if I was to ask for one thing that, but still to answer the question, I don't know whoever asked, and I owe an answer. I think it's not something that I could not do, but I think in the last 2 years, the focus has changed, from a lot of stuff that we do to mental health and mental well-being. And I think that's where we would want to take the organization forward. Because when I was the HR head, before even during the COVID, but the focus was not so much on mental health, mental anxiety, and understanding of that whole challenge. I think that's something that I would want, to work on and drive. So it's not about me asking my HR head to drive this agenda. Actually, it's me working with my HR head and facilitating him to enable this for the organization, because I think that is something that we really have a lot of work to do on and need to do. So I think that's something that I'll focus on.
Thanks, Amit. Alkaji, your expectations. So
Yes,
what would you like to do?
yes, Sujoy. One thing I would first like to ditto what Amit ji has said. Really, mental health and well-being is something, that feeling of well-being is something which has taken priority. But what I am also the head of HR as of now. I'm holding, as I mentioned, both charges. So there's a list there which I have to tick before I lay down my office, I would say. But what I am targeting in the times to come is for an organization like ONGC, which is a public sector. When we joined, we thought we will continue to be with the ONGC for a lifetime, and we all, quite a few, have done so. But now the youngsters who are joining our organization are not having that kind of thought at the back of their mind when they join. They will be with you till they feel that they are growing. Let the organization grow, but they should also grow. And the day they feel that they are stagnating or they have some better opportunities coming their way, they would like to move on. So for that, what we as HR professionals have to do is, one is change our mindset. Till they are with us, if they are contributing, we have to give them an experience which will make them say in years to come that this is what they gained out of their presence in ONGC, and this is the message that will go to other youngsters as well. So I am working on creating that kind of mindset, as and till when they are there with us, we give them an experience which they will carry with forever in their lifetime. So that is one thing. For that, we are fast tracking promotions because they look at rewards coming in much faster. So earlier days of waiting for your promotion are gone. Like that is again an area. Secondly, they need to keep building on their strength, professional strength. So we are looking at giving more opportunities for them to take on higher qualifications, to go for courses, to go for R&D related activities. So these are the areas which we are opening up for our youngsters. And another thing which I think I'll be able to achieve before I uh, uh, close my come to the end of my career would be, I want each person in ONGC to have a choice of having a birthday holiday, either for their own birthday or for the birthday of their spouse. So, without giving any financial benefit as such, just one additional holiday. It could be their marriage anniversary also. They will be writing it at the beginning of the year, and that will be a free holiday for them, a present from this organization. Because I have seen at times on birthdays, people are working till late, and when they want to go, that is the time we get to know that okay, this is their per day or their anniversary, and we have kept them waiting here. So I feel I would like to do that for my colleagues.
Superb, Alkaji. Superb, Amit, for the wisdom that you've shared. It's just 1 minute to sign off, so I won't have any more questions. I would like to thank both of you all, Alkaji, Amit, for taking out your time and spending this 1 hour with me. It has been a learning experience for me personally because I've gained a lot from both of your wisdom and experiences. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation with me. It's been an honor and privilege for me to share the same platform with you. Over to you, Toshi.
Thank you, Sujoy ji.
I,
And
before we go, I just want to thank Sujoy for great moderating. Thank you, Alka ji. I'm looking forward to
wonderful.
meeting you in person and having a cup of tea with you. It will be a
Sure.
pleasure. And for all your listeners, thank you for giving us your time. I know 1 hour is very crucial. And if you want to connect up, please feel free to follow me on Twitter or LinkedIn. That would be great.
Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
everybody. Thank you.
As Sujoy sir has said, listening to more than 50 years of cumulative journey of Amit sir and Alka ma'am was really inspiring and was treat to ears. I thank Sujoy sir for moderating this session and esteemed guest for being with us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would also like to thank our sponsors, Platinum sponsor ONGC, Silver sponsor Zuzo Day JSW, and White Crow, along with associate sponsors ICICI Bank, Indian Oil, NTPC, Mahindra Rise, Balmer Company, and Wallet Work. Also, knowledge partner Masar and Fulki as communication and design partner for supporting this conference. I would really like to thank you. Post this session, we will meet at 2 p.m. For the next round of sessions. Thank you everyone. Good to have you here.